Hey everyone, and we're back for a video that I've been meaning to do for a long ass time. And yes, you are hearing correctly, this is a new microphone, so let's give a massive thank you to Noelle, aka Delinquent Muse. So please go check out her Twitch channel because frankly she is a very great streamer, such a lovely person, and she's genuinely really great at games, like fucking hell. So she's very entertaining, definitely worthwhile checking out, and we wouldn't recommend someone that we didn't think was genuinely worth it. And another big shout out to my boy Mateus from Brazil, who helped us get the footage for this episode, so yeah, big shouts out to him as well. Thanks a lot, man. Anyway, today's video is about armor calculations, how it works, and why overall armor basically doesn't really matter, and we're going to prove that in this video. You've probably all seen that DamnoHTML, shouts out to him. He made a video on how he thought armor calculation works, and that isn't actually true. I mean, it's almost true, but it's not accurate enough. So there's a guy on Reddit who actually figured out exactly how damage is calculated in the game. So obviously, I mean, all credits to him. I'll link the article in the description. But I wanted to display the information in a way that kind of supported a hypothesis that I have about how armor works in the game. Now, this comes in the form of like a spreadsheet equation. So I'll also link the spreadsheet down in the description as well if you want to do your own testing. Now, this spreadsheet is basically pinpoint accurate and has only ever came within 1 point difference of what it is actually calculated compared to the damage that I've actually taken in game. So, you know, it's good shit. It's good shit. So this video is just going to take us through some tests that I've done where it'll be showing you the calculations of the armor calculator, and you'll see the weapon that he's using. You're just going to need to take my word for certain things like how leveled up his weapon is or whatever, but you know, I'm not bullshitting you here. You can test it out yourself if you want. So here we are at the first test, and we're doing the first test naked just so you can see that it's consistent with being naked and having armor and overall wearing 4 bits of armor and how that affects your defense. You can see my maximum HP there, and this is the predicted damage that the sword is supposedly going to do, which is 331. So it's just going to hit me with a normal R1 of a +9 long sword, that's all it is, and that should be doing 331. So I should be left with 882 health after being hit. And 881, so it's rounded it up by 1 point, but as you can see, that's basically exactly what it predicted. So, you know, you can, I mean, these results are consistent through every test. So in these tests, we're using a selection of weapons. So right now it's the Black Knight Great Axe, and that's predicted to do 582 points of damage to me. Back at full health, and as you can see, there's the calculations right there, and once he hits me, it does in fact leave him with 582 points, and I'm then left with 631 as my remaining HP. So you can see, you know, it's still working, the results are still consistent. So some of you may be wondering, how is defense actually calculated then if what DamnoHTML says isn't correct? So what he said is that defense is just a flat number that gets taken off their AR, and then your absorption gets applied to that number, which is almost true and can kind of work for some of the calculations, but it will never be completely accurate. Unlike this, what your defense seems to be is more of a reference number that compares your defense and their AR, and depending how high or lower their defense is, it will apply a debuff to their AR. So taking the two most extreme examples, if their AR is 8 times higher than your defense, it will do 90% of their AR. But if your defense is 8 times higher than their attack will only do 10% of its damage. Again, you know, all these graphs and numbers are in the description. Now, once this number has been calculated, the game then uses your absorption, takes your absorption off that calculated number, and then that's the amount of damage that you take. So, you know, it can be confirmed that your absorption is not taken off their initial AR, and then that's the number that gets taken off along with the flat damage reduction. So that's just not how it works. Just in case, you know, anyone may have thought that. Now, what you've currently been seeing is us not taking the correct amount of damage that has been calculated, because you have to hit with the sweet spot of the spear. So it should be taking 301 damage, but I was taking some fucking weird wacky numbers, so eventually got me with the tip, and I do take the 301 damage, which will leave me with 912. As you see, completely correct. So I mean, at this point I got a bit worried, but nothing to worry about. It was just spears being a bit wacky. Okay, so next I'm going to show you some examples of me wearing armor, and I've made an armor setup with as close to 20% absorption and everything just for my ease of use. Now, as you can see, this thing should be doing about 39 damage to me, and it does indeed do 39 damage to me, and this is a Mailbreaker +2. Now the point of this is actually what I make is how there seems to be more of like a sweet spot for damage now, given how defense works. It would appear that, you know, if you have AR close to someone's defense, so if you're going against people at level 120, they're going to have 122 defense. So if you have something with a weapon with that AR, you're not going to be doing anything to people really. There does seem to be a bit of a sweet spot for damage. For instance, 300 AR does not do double the damage 150 AR does. So this tells you that, you know, there is a bit of a drop off and you need to take that into consideration for PvP. So I would say get a weapon with about 350 damage, at least that way you'll be doing an actual respectable amount. Now you can actually use the damage calculator to find out what your sweet spot for damage is or what you're comfortable with. All you need to do is put in like your defense that you've got at your level, because that's who you'll be going against, and then you can put in, you know, the numbers to see what amount of damage you'll be doing, and you can see what it is that you're comfortable with. And obviously in the background you saw me just do a couple of other tests wearing armor with the bastard sword, the club, and the Mailbreaker +2, just so you can see the same example but with a different selection of weapons, just so you know the calculations definitely work. So what we're doing just now is testing split damage. Right now I'm going to be hit with a longsword +9 or 10, just to see what damage it's going to do wearing armor, and then we can compare that damage to what the damage outcome will be with the fire longsword. And I mean, I'm just going to tell you right now, the damage is not good, but I just figured that while we're here we may as well prove that split damage really is unusable. I mean, I can kind of understand the reasoning behind why it should do less damage overall, but I mean, it's clear that it does go through 2 defenses. Now the damage calculator can be used to work out split damage as well. All you need to do is just, you know, plug in the amount of damage, your absorption and your defense for one element, and then your absorption and defense for the physical part, or indeed if it somehow doesn't do physical but it does 2 element, I don't know. But yeah, all you need to do is just plug in each part and then the results will be correct. So I mean, it's pretty handy. So here's where I wanted to do some real world tests against something that you'll probably come against. So here's like a Karthus curved sword, a refined one at 40/40. And what we wanted to do here is see what is the actual difference between 20% absorption, 10% and 30%. Is there actually like a decent amount of difference going on here? So that's what we're going to find out. And as you can see, the Karthus at this point with 20% is going to do about 240 damage, which is respectable. Okay, so you can place your bets to see what you think the damage is going to be dealt with the next 2. So now we're doing full Havels. Now you need to take into consideration the amount of investment in stats and rings that you'd need to wear in order to get full Havels, and full Havels has about 30%-ish in its absorption amounts. And as you can see, full Havels is only protecting us, what, 30 extra damage against the Karthus curved sword? Is that really worth all the stat investment? Which is kind of the point that I'm trying to make with this particular video. So now we're going to go on to 10% absorption and see what difference that makes. So shockingly, 10% absorption only deals 30 extra damage to you when going against the Karthus curved sword, which means the difference between this and full Havels is a fuck ton of stat investment and only 60 damage per hit. So now we're going to move on and see what this actually means in terms of just real world action, and the results are probably actually I mean, you know them by now, but they're kind of shocking, really. So here we are wearing that 10% absorption setup, and you'll see here that when he hits us, it would take 5 normal R1s off the Karthus curved sword to kill us, which is neither good nor bad really, but the next part is pretty bad. Here we are wearing full Havels armor, and again he's just using normal R1s from the Karthus curved sword, and it will take 6 hits to kill us. So the difference between full Havels and an incredibly light set of armor is the difference between 1 hit, which is the point that I wanted to make with this entire video. And frankly, I think that there's something pretty fucking off with that. I don't think that should be the case. I don't think most people would think that would be the case. But there you go, the figures don't lie, they definitely don't lie. So hopefully we'll learn something from this video. The mainly armor doesn't really matter. I think as long as you're sticking to about 20%, you're good to go. And most armor sets will get you about 20% really. So thinking about that, it's yet another thing that they've kind of removed from Dark Souls. It's kind of simplified it a little bit to the point where it doesn't matter. I think that overall that just hurts build variety. You can't really make a tank build. Like, a tank build doesn't exist in this game, really, you know, when you see it this way. And even if you put on the Ring of Steel protection, that still doesn't actually do anything. That doesn't fucking work in PvP. So yeah, hopefully you enjoyed this video, and I just want to give another big shout out to all the patrons on Patreon that have helped us, helped the channel, helped me. Honestly, I thank you from the bottom of my heart to every single one of you. You've no idea how much difference you've made, and I just hope that the support continues, and I just hope that you enjoy the content they put out. But we'll see you in the next video, guys. Bye.